It's the end of an era in Montreal. Shea Weber, longtime captain of the Montreal Canadiens, traded in the salary cap up to the Vegas Golden Knights. Kind of, I don't want to say it's rough, but like kind of a bit of an anticlimactic end to the Shea Weber era as it was in Montreal. Stu, what in terms of the trade, what did you think of the trade? And in terms of his lasting impressions and memories with the team, can you kind of paint a picture for everybody on that?
Well, he left. I wrote a column with this. He left Montreal as quietly as he arrived. If you remember, after that big PK blockbuster trade, I think it was the next couple of days later, PK was in Nashville dancing on the stage at Tootsie's and singing a Johnny Cash song and embracing the fans and embracing his new city. And almost a month later, there was still no sign of Shea Weber in Montreal. And I remember writing a column with the headline, "Where's Shea Weber?" And, his world was pulled out from under him in Nashville. He never wanted to be traded. Nashville traded the contract, more than they traded the player. And when he left, he just left. We had never heard from him, right? The last time Shea Weber spoke to anybody in Montreal was after the Stanley Cup final a year ago. So he left as quietly as he came. And I guess we never really got to know him, right? He's a very quiet, reserved guy, and media never really got to know him well. Fans never got to know him well. And he's gone. But that's a good thing because it was an elephant in the room. Last year with him still being, for whatever reason, Marc Bergevin decided to still have him as the captain, even though there was no way he was going to play. I think that was a distraction in the room. I think it was a mistake. I don't think it was fair to the team. I don't think it was fair to Weber either, because he was criticized for never being around the team, but his plan was never to be around the team. He was going back home. As far as he was concerned, his career was over. But for Kent Hughes, what a great trade. He gets rid of that headache. I mean, he's going to be a long-term injured reserve, but it's just a headache that money's sitting there. That 7.8 million cap hit sitting there on injured reserve. It limits what you can do moving forward, similar with the Carey Price contract. He was able to get Dadonov, guy who scored 20 goals last year. There's only two Canadiens players who scored 20 goals last year, Suzuki and Caulfield. He's only got 1 year left on his contract at $5 million. He's a player you can probably move at the trade deadline next year, if not before, if you want. So it basically just, to me, it clears the room of the Shea Weber era. And now we move forward. Now there's a new captain. Now there's a new leader in the room. Now it's not all the talk about the Shea Weber. Where is he? Why isn't he around? Why isn't he talking? It's a fresh start for the Canadiens. And I think Hughes got a good return. I think it's a perfect thing. He got back more than I thought he would. Vegas was obviously in a cap crunch, and they had to get rid of the $5 million salary that Dadonov has. And so it's a trade, I guess, it worked for both teams. And I think it worked even better for Montreal than it did for Vegas.
Yeah, this is a really slick move by Kent Hughes. And as far as Shea Weber's lasting impression, I agree with Stu that it's very quiet. Shea Weber never really took over the market in the way that obviously the player that he was traded for did. But at the same time, I think most people who watch the Montreal Canadiens, their lasting impression of Weber will be his performance in the playoffs in 2021, where, Weber has some limitations, obviously, in his game. He was an older player. He was injured. But watching his face when they lost in Game 5, and you could tell that both him and Carey Price risked their health for the long term to get the Canadiens to that point and put everything possible on the line to get there. And I think there's no way a player can do that and end their career in that way and not have the respect of the fan base. So I think the eternal respect of the Montreal Canadiens fan base is what will be the lasting impression of Shea Weber.
And I think it's finally a closure of the uncertainty that was going around Shea Weber. Everybody's like, okay, what is he retired? Is he not retired? What's going on with it? Everything was so quiet. So this is done, put to rest, and now let's move forward. And as far as what Shea Weber brought to the organization, and I think we got to give this guy full marks for a guy that showed each and every night that he wanted to win. He paid the price. He played hurt. He did everything he could possibly do to try and bring this Montreal Canadiens to the next level. He unfortunately fell short in the finals, but in all due respects to a quality guy, a real leader, silent leader, if you will, but he did lead through example, and I give a lot of credit to him. He had a hell of a career, and my understanding in the short time that I've talked to him, a quality guy with a real good representation of an athlete to be part of the Montreal Canadiens.
Well, that last Stanley Cup final game, it spoke volumes, that video clip of the reaction of his teammates hugging him at the blue line. I mean, they knew more than anybody what he put himself through to play his best hockey as a Montreal Canadien, despite all those injuries that he had. That was the best hockey he played, was during that playoff run. And, I mentioned he came here very quietly. He left here very, very quietly. He was traded here because of his contract, and he was traded away from here because of his contract also. It's, when the Nashville had to match that ridiculous offer sheet the Philadelphia Flyers give him. There's still 4 more years left on that contract with a $7.8 million salary cap hit. He's only earning $6 million over the last 4 years, which is, I think, factors into why he's not coming back. I mean, I don't think he's going to put his body, has any interest in putting his body through what he would have to put it through to play again for that kind of money. But wish Shea Weber all the best with his family and whatever moving forward. His career is obviously over. It would have been nice to talk to him just to find out how was he able to play the way he did in the playoffs. Like, that was a heroic performance, what he did. It would have been nice to know more about how he was able to do it, what he had to go through. But that's not Shea Weber's style, and we're never going to hear about it.
Yeah, it's also good on you for wishing him well and his family and all that. But that is true. We will never. I guess that's just a sign of who Shea Weber is. Just a bit of a weird enigma. Just in a city that likes people who like to grab attention. Shea Weber seemingly did everything he could to not be in the spotlight.
As I wrote, part of it is very admirable. He only cared about what his teammates and his family and Canadiens management thought about him. He didn't really care about anything else, and there's an admirable quality to that.
Exactly. Subscribe to the YouTube page if you can. We really appreciate it when we get subscribers onto the YouTube page. We also appreciate subscribers to the MontrealGazette.com/newsletters, the newsletter for Hockey Inside Out. That is the website, MontrealGazette.com/newsletters, and of course, HockeyInsideOut.com to check out the full episode and join the discussion in the comments section below.